Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm spiritual medium, Kelly White.
And John, the beautiful, handsome John, is with us.
Hey, happy to be here.
Hey.
So glad that you are.
I'm so glad this is all working out.
I know. It's like we're tenuously. I just put my microphone, which isn't working perfectly well, but we're going to get all the kinks fixed.
And I want to say a shout out to B. Thank you, honey, for helping us get organized.
Yes,
Thank you so much, B.
Wow.
So we have a wonderful guest, but Kelly, let's start with
Let me just start with
what the hell is going on?
Well, actually today, funny, Shirley, I was mentioning this before we went on air. I was today's actually an easier day. Yeah. And what I mean by that is this month is tough. This is a tough month. April has 3 retrogrades. So it's a very going to be an intense month. The month actually means great change, great transformation from personally and institutions that will lose their structure. So it's going to be a very intense ride. And so I just kind of want to briefly touch through the 3 major planets that are retrograde. Okay. So the first one is Jupiter. Jupiter retrograde goes retrograde on April 10th to August 11th. So it's going to make you feel a little more ballsy, actually. It's going to make you feel like, I want to take that chance. Why not? It's actually going to loosen you up in a weird sort of a way. But it's really, the bottom line is what Jupiter retrograde asks is, what do I want to accomplish in my life? Like, why did I come here? What's going on with me? I need to make some changes. Interesting enough, it's going to be in Sagittarius, and that is about travel. So all of a sudden, you might have these really cockamamie ideas of going really somewhere really strange that you'd never been before. I would say take great caution with that. But
does it mean not go, or
it means really pay attention to really where you are going in life and also actually on a trip, because in Sagittarius, it makes you want to travel. And yet it's in a retrograde, which is asking you, who am I? What am I? What am I about? Who am I? It's going to be a real interesting time for people. But it's going to sidestep yourself, if you will, to allow your own self to, make a shift. It's all about making a shift. So allow yourself to make a shift. Okay. That's the first thing, Jupiter retrograde. Second thing that we have seriously is Pluto retrograde, April 24th to October 3rd. Now, Pluto means breaking down systems. I'm going to say very tough time. I'm going to say, it's going to go into reflection of power and control. Who's got the power? Who's got the control? Breaking down systems. It's going to be a repeating theme of fated events. Things that were hidden will come out again. It's going to be a very intense time. If you were doing drugs and alcohol, there'll be a time that you're going to really sober up now. Or if you know anybody, relationships may break. People will won't be living any longer. I mean, it's going to be an intense time, a very intense time.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of deaths, a lot of transformation is what I meant by that. And then Saturn retrograde, April 30th to September 18th. And again, Saturn retrograde and Pluto retrograde are both in Capricorn. Capricorn is structures. This is how we do it. Well, guess what? Not anymore. I mean,
so it's going to shake everything up. Is that what you're saying?
What do they say? Benihana.
Right. It's Benihana everything. Oh my God.
Dear God. Yeah. But it's all actually to bring in a whole bunch of light and put us on the path that we're supposed to be on. So you might be kicking and screaming and complaining. Listen, who isn't? I'm the first one to complain. Right. But anyway, hence this is where we find ourselves this month.
Wow. So almost like this kind of revolution change to kind of either put people on the right track, or if they're not, shake their world up enough to at least be curious and maybe possibly get themselves on the right track.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be more than curious. They'll be like, my pants are on fire.
So it's actually going to push them onto the right track.
That's correct. That's
Oh,
correct.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's good for if you're a therapist, the business starts flowing in, or a divorce lawyer. Woohoo, those kind of things.
Basically, is what you're saying that we're going to get bitch slapped by the universe?
Oh, yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And those are not my words. I didn't make those up. But that sounds like what we're doing. We're getting bitch slapped by the universe.
Completely. And Sasha Morris says, I don't know. All this change sounds good to me. She's right on. It is actually really good change. It's painful for many people going through it because people don't like change. Oh, well, so my favorite word next, we're having change.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
So prepare to get slapped by the universe.
Yeah. But, it's all for the better. It's all means, really take responsibility for yourself.
It's so interesting that you say that because it usually is. And sometimes we just need to be shaken up so intensely or we won't change or move or shift or do what we need to do.
Absolutely. It's all about raising our consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that warning, Kel.
Anytime.
So we have a wonderful guest today that I met through Carrie. Carrie Gonya, who we had on the show about a month ago, the fabulous family constellation therapist.
Yeah.
And this is one of her friends, and he is just lovely. I met him, I think about a year ago, and just fell in love. His name is Mark Edgar Stevens. He's a body language specialist and clinical hypnotherapist, and he does personal development and professional and coaching and consulting development. He's been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Dr. Drew, NBC, TLC, HGTV, VH1, MTV, Style Network, and Access Hollywood. So he has been all over the place, and we are so lucky to have him on our show today.
Yeah.
So are you with us, Mark?
I believe I'm live.
You are. I see you.
I have these fancy dancy little new Apple AirPods. I got them this weekend.
So little Q-tips, half of Q-tips.
Yeah, so I've got little Q-tips. I'm like getting used to this. Yeah, it's like I'm getting little ether from the universe, but the sound is really good. What, Kelly? What's going on?
Nothing. So sorry. So
what happened?
Well, it was the damnedest thing. So I with my iPhone, I thought I turned it all the way off and everything. So anyway, it's off now.
It didn't. Okay. So welcome, Mark. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Shirley. I'm happy to be here. You look great, Kel.
Oh my God.
Okay. So this is great to get to hear you talk about our business coming up.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited to get to know you, Mark. I've heard amazing things about you.
Well, I am thrilled that the person that's connecting us also is Carrie Gonya, because as Shirley knows, I love Carrie, and anybody that Carrie introduces me to has always been pretty wonderful. And so now to meet you, Kelly, through Shirley is a real treat. So thank you.
Oh, great. Welcome to our show today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about, unless Kelly, you have a question that comes up, just about hypnotherapy in general. I mean, I got trained in it when I was at UCLA, but I'd love to hear, because you do it actively.
Yes. Okay, so hypnotherapy is just the therapeutic use of hypnosis to be able to help people with personal and professional changes. Basically, we work with anything that is a pattern in a person's life, helping to change those patterns. It can be anything from improving the way that a person is eating, to improving their golf game, to changing relationship strategies. It can also be used for things like past life regression, which I do a lot of work in. It can also be used to talk about. Which can be used to tap into the subconscious mind and figure out what are the blocks that are going on in a person's mind. And then hypnotherapy basically works like an advertisement to the mind. One of the reasons why advertisers pay billions of dollars for advertising on radio and television is that whatever we hear over and over again, whatever we think about over and over again, becomes dominant thought for us. And when it becomes dominant thought, then our behavior follows suit, and we start saying, well, that's the way that the world is. So sometimes people come to me and they say, well, the truth is this. And so we have to talk about what is your truth through your perspective, and what are other possible truths. And sometimes this is something that blows people's mind, because we go to a place where we go to a fight-flight response, which breaks through a thing called the critical filter. That's a lot of clinical talk to be able to say it's an experience where someone says, I'm willing to be able to change my personalized or my perspective truth on something in order to get to a new truth that changes my behavior and therefore improves my life.
Wow.
How'd you like that for an explanation?
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. It's you know, saying kind of a tool that breaks through all these kind of barriers or defenses that we've put that stop us from being happy, really.
Yes. And Shirley, the big thing with it, when I describe it to people as an advertisement for the mind, whatever dominant thought we have practiced, and sometimes this is a new concept for people, but we are practicing thought all the time. One of my corporate clients is working with some of the elderly, and I've gotten to notice that when I ask them their stories, and the stories tend to repeat themselves over and over and over again, the stories that they've practiced are either stories that make them feel good or don't make them feel good. And so I always say to my clients, before it is too late, before you get to a place where you can't change your story, start practicing stories that make you feel your best, because it is an advertisement to the mind, and we feel according to what we think about.
Wow. So this is really good for negative thinkers then, people that have negative self-talk.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of how you would work with somebody with negative self-talk? Because Shirley and I run into this all the time.
Okay. So self-talk, as we know, is the little voice that's going on inside of the mind all the time that is telling us either that we're doing really great and doing really well, or that we are really screwing it up and we better, find a way to fix it, or we're going to hell in a handbasket, nothing's ever going to work out. So that self-talk is always going on with all of us. And it's really interesting because the more positive it is, the more positive the experience of life is. The more negative it is, the more experience of life being negative. So when people come to me, it's so interesting because sometimes I will ask a question and I frame everything in the positive, because with hypnotherapy, we want to make sure that the messages that are being heard are all in the positive, because again, it's an advertisement for the mind. So I will say to people, well, what is it that you really want to experience? Well, I don't want to experience fear and I don't want to experience anger. Okay, what do you want to experience? And it is so interesting with the negative thinkers, Kelly, just like you asked, it's very hard for them to put anything in the positive. So then I play a little game with my clients and I will say, okay, so what's the opposite of not happy? Happy.
Right.
Okay, what does happy look like? What's the opposite of not angry? What's the opposite of not angry? Accepting. Okay, what does acceptance look like? And what I get from them are these little blocks, these little pieces of evidence that I piece together then to say, all right, now let's create a script in the moment of hypnotherapy. And then I create a recording for my clients and they listen to it over and over and over again with all of the positive suggestions that have not come from me. It has come from my client, from their mouth.
Wow. So it's like a key. It's a key. It's a key that just goes in and in. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
It turns it each time. It turns it each time, because if someone believes that something's not possible, I always ask for a piece of proof. Was there ever a time when it was possible? Did you ever experience it, even as a 7-year-old? And if someone says no, that becomes a little daunting. So I say, is there anyone you can model on? Do you know a Dr. Shirley who's been able to do this thing, or a Kelly that's been able to do this thing? Yes, my best friend is like this. Tell me about your best friend. Describe your best friend. And we're writing down keywords about this best friend or about the experience. And then we use that as the proof that's already in the subconscious mind to be able to make a shift in the present day experience.
Wow. That's amazing. I got to think about that
too.
I can imagine. Wow. Yeah.
And it seems to just shift it from the inside out, from that core place, where it got, I don't want to say where it was birthed almost. Yes, right.
Where it was birthed. And Shirley and Kelly, I know one of the things I love about your show and I love about the two of you is you come from two separate perspectives, and I'm sort of the in between the two of you, because there's a clinical background, but there's a lot of spiritual aspect to it. And so, the concept is we have this thing in the mind called the neural net. And the neural net is how we have practiced a thought over and over and over again. So people say to me, can you help me get rid of this thought? No, I cannot help you get rid of a thought, and that's not the point. But I can help you create a new groove, a new pathway that becomes the dominant pathway. So the old pathway still exists, but we create one that is so new that the other one starts to fade into the background, like a path that gets overgrown with weeds if it's not used.
Wow.
Yeah. That's exactly, and that's what we do with somatic experiencing. And that's what brain plasticity is all about. You can't get rid of what's already there, but you can create a new pathway and make that one stronger, so the old one just kind of fades away. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And when we get into the past life work, I also have my own very strong professional beliefs that past life work used with present life work, that's also part of creating a new pathway. Each lifetime is an opportunity to do it slightly differently, to wear a new pathway so that the next lifetime, the next experience is one that is different from the previous life or the challenges that are faced in this life. So
I love that.
It all goes together. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's talk about past life. How did you get involved in that? And tell us all about it.
Okay, so Kelly, so you got to tell me if I start going, because I get a little geeky about this. So
I love it. You can't geek out.
We're total geeks with this stuff.
All right, good. So from the time I was little, I had a sister that died when I was 5, she was 7. So that obviously had a big impression on me, and wondering as a small child about where the soul goes and what happens. And from a young age, I'm not going to proclaim to have your talents, Kelly, but I experienced a lot of things that were not explainable through the senses, and so with all of that, I knew there was one day when I was in high school and I was not on drugs and I was not drinking, and I looked in the mirror and I saw another face, and I knew that it was me, but I knew it was from another time and another place. I knew that it was. I didn't know how, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that there was something else going on.
Wow.
I began to read Brian Weiss's books, Many Lives, Many Masters, and I was very interested in past lives and the possibilities of past lives. And of course, I've got this other clinical side that science always said or energy is neither created nor destroyed. So that made sense to me, that reincarnation or that past lives could be possible, because why wouldn't we also follow the same scientific rule? You're never created or destroyed. It just goes on and it enters different forms. So at the age of 28, I was in Denver and I was doing some work there, and I was doing Tai Chi. And the person teaching Tai Chi was a hypnotherapist who does some past life regression work. When I spoke with him, he said, he goes, we could do this together, but I have a feeling that you should work with this man, Sherman Cowdrey, there in Denver. So I didn't know why, but I showed up at Sherm's door. We made an appointment. His wife answered the door. Now you've got to remember, Sherm and his wife are about almost 40 years older than me. Jan opened the door and she looked at me and she said, "Hi." And there was this instant recognition between the two of us. I proceed to go to his office. We work for 2 hours, and Jan comes up in the session as somebody that I had been with before in a previous lifetime.
Wow.
All of these things were coming up about these previous lifetimes that were directly feeding into certain challenges I was facing in my current lifetime.
Wow.
And I thought and so when I came back up, Jan said, "I know you." And I said, "I know you too." And then Sherm said, "Is it okay to tell her?" And so we've always had this connection. I just saw them again this summer, and we just always had this amazing, amazing connection. Fast forward then, several years go by, and I'm still wanting to do some more past life regression work. I had hurt my back, my upper back, when I was 13 years old, had X-ray after X-ray, physical therapist couldn't find anything wrong with my back. We did some work in past life regression about this lifetime where I was yelling at this kid. I was painting a ceiling. It was not the Sistine Chapel. I was a poor painter, and it was Italian lifetime. And I'm painting this ceiling, and this kid is bothering me. And the kid, turns out it's my brother's child that I ended up having to take care of. It's a long story, another lifetime. I fall off and I break my back. We couldn't find anything in this lifetime for the problem, but we did some healing work on it. I swear to you, this happened 20 years ago. I have never had that back pain ever again since. It used to come back once or twice a year. It has never come back. That pain was not from this lifetime. It was from that lifetime, and it was about resentment. So I go to school to learn hypnotherapy. And of course, I'm very interested in past life regression work. And even before I was out of school, they asked us to start working with clients, and people were finding me. People were finding me, and my fascination with the phenomena of past life regression got replaced by the therapeutic aspect, by being able to use, this is what's happened. How do we now use this to be able to change something in a positive way in your current lifetime? So I have had clients experience everything from really what we would consider traditional as possible, traditional past lives, to experience of what we would call in-between lives, purgatory, other dimensional lives, alien lifetimes, multiple lifetimes, shared lifetimes. It's quite fascinating. And the thing that I've learned in all of this, and Shirley, you and I have spoken about it a bit, but Kelly, the thing I've learned in all of this is I can never predict what's going on. It's a surprise to me every time, as much as it is to the person experiencing it. And my job is not to lead it. My job is just to facilitate the space.
Wow. And then when somebody has this is amazing. It's an amazing story. When somebody has a session with you and they come out of the lifetime, how do you handle it from there?
Okay. And this is a great question, because I always say to people, it's not the phenomena, it's how we can now use this to make a change in your current life. So there's always 15 to 20 minutes at the end of a session that I call puzzling. And puzzling is, in the first 15, 20 minutes of the session, I always ask, what's going on in your current life? What are the challenges that you're facing? What are the things, who are the people in your life that keep coming up? Most times, every now and then, no, but most times there is something directly connected to that experience that we then puzzle at the end, that they get some sort of a release, they get some sort of an understanding, they understand what their part of the contract is, which is always a very big deal. Oh, this is what I came in to do. They're not wrong or bad. This is a chance for me to do this differently, or this is for a chance for me to love it unconditionally, or forgive myself. And so that last 15 to 20 minutes is always the puzzling of, why did you even come in here in the first place? Because isn't it great you got to experience it, but isn't it even greater that we can now apply that to your current life so you don't have to deal with it in the same way that you were before?
Wow. Well, that's so critical. That last piece is so important. I'm so glad to hear that you do that. It shows people a way. It gives them hope. It lets out pain. It's a really good. I'm so glad to hear you do that. Wow, it's an extraordinary process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where for me, the healing has always been in making sense of it. If I understand it, then okay, I can either tolerate it better, even if it's a difficult emotion to feel, or I can move forward with it. So to me, that's like you're saying, Kelly, it's such an important piece to understand it.
Oh, it is. And it's the other thing that's really important is that you allow the person to have their experience. When I'm doing a reading for somebody, every once in a while, and I hesitate to even say it, because I'll see some past life thing that's, getting in the way there, but it's coming from me. And I almost hesitate to say anything. I think the person should have the one to have that experience. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And Kelly, one of the things that I always ask clients to do, even before they come in, as I said, if there's a certain spirit guide you work with, if there is a relative that's passed on, if there's an angel, whatever, because I work within the person's belief systems. It's not about my belief systems. So I ask them, is there someone that you like to work with or that you choose to work with? That person may, or that entity may or may not show up. They're usually waiting there at the very top of the staircase that we take. We go up the staircase inside of the hypnotherapy session, the past life regression. And that person or persons or entities will be waiting for them. And that's always a very interesting thing, because I will then sometimes have an inspirational nudge, as I call it. And I will ask the person in hypnosis, please ask your guide, or the person that's leading you through this, or the entity leading you through this, whatever it may be. And believe me, there's been all sorts of interesting entities. Yes. And I always say, is it okay for me to share this with you? And sometimes I've heard, no, you're not supposed to. Okay, great. That's for me. That's just for me. And then there's other times They say yes before I even finish. They're like, absolutely. And the guide is smiling or whatever it may be. So I have learned that my place is as the, I'm kind of the person at the pit stop there. Like if they're in a race car and the guide is driving and they're the passenger, I'm the one that they keep going by as they're looping around and go, hey, do you need an oil change? Do we need to fix that tire? So that's more my job, is to observe and then help piece it together afterward rather than leading the session itself.
Wow. Boy, that makes so much sense. I'm really actually so glad to hear that. We have a remark from Susie Everett. I always felt I never fit into my family. I felt like I had been an older, wiser soul. Also feel a connection to American Indians. I understand that, Susie. I mean, you may have just chose that family for other reasons. Who knows why we choose different families to be in.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about lives between lives?
Yes.
Life between lives.
So this is very interesting to me, and I didn't have a lot of experience with this. In particular, this was when I was first doing this work in New York, and I remember this one client in particular, very nice guy, like just a really nice guy. I knew his girlfriend had come to me for some work, and so he came to me. He was going through some dark moments in life, and in the very first regression that it's one regression, but there may be several experiences that we have in that regression. And the very first one, I always say, look down at where your feet are. And I learned I had to say, look down at where your feet are, or would be if you had feet, because I have often had, I had a client that said to me, there are no feet. I said, okay, well, just keep looking until, no, you don't understand. I don't have feet. Okay. Explain to me, you know what I mean? So they school me. So so he was one of these that said there are no feet, there's no body. And I said, okay. I said, can you describe where you are? Because it's dark, it's stuck, it's murky. And I said, okay, can you describe to me what this place is? He goes, I'm between lives. And he later said to me, he goes, I don't even know what that experience is. He said, I felt myself between lives. And one of the things that I always do with clients is I say, okay, stay in that experience, feel what that experience is, and tell me, is there anything that you're learning or that you need to learn or that you need to know from experiencing? And then I'll repeat their words back to them. This stuck, dark, murky place. Yes, I need to understand that I don't have to be in this place in my current mind. I don't have to be in this stuck place. There is light. And if I move toward light, then I can move out of this place. I said, okay, are we complete with this experience? Yes, we are. So then we came out of that. And then the very next experience after that was one of light. It was an experience. And he was having in his current lifetime the choice between, wow, things are never going to work out, and feeling that murky in between purgatory stuck place. I mean, and I'm not Catholic, but that's what I understood it to be, like a purgatory stuck place. And the choice of choosing light, of choosing to move towards something that feels like light, that feels that feels like light, So and that was the choice he had to make. And he realized that he, in this lifetime, while in body, has the ability to make a conscious choice that leads to deliberate action rather than being stuck. So that was his discovery.
Wow, what an important session.
So it seems like, and I had one of my teachers in the somatic work always said that the mind or the psyche always moves towards the healing, and it seems like that wherever Mark, you're saying that people go, whether it's a past life or wherever they go, is in a way to help heal whatever it is that they're working on in this lifetime.
Yes,
to help bring attention to it or understanding of it.
And Shirley, I heard something recently. I'm part of this a community called the Sacred Fire Community, and we were talking about something that had come up, which is that, and it's not a new concept, it's something that's been said over and again in different ways, but in order for us to, and a little bit of what you guys were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, sometimes in order to move on, we have to get bitch slapped, or we have to, to feel the darkness or the stuck place, or to go, wait a minute, I know what that choice is. I know what that feels like. I can choose differently. So sometimes we have to experience that in order to go, I get it. I've been there already. And then this other experience, I've also had this other experience. So if I can choose, and I can, I'm going to choose the one that is light, the one that is healing, the one that leads to solution and movement and joy and happiness and forgiveness and all those things that we're all moving toward.
Right. Wow. Wow. Would you say a lot of your business, the work that you do, is past life, or do you?
I would say that about 20% of my business is. I would say that. I've moved a lot more into the corporate world, which is very interesting. Shirley, I know. I think I told you the story, Shirley. A friend of mine said to me years ago, "Wow, your work would be so good in the corporate world." And I said, and here's my positioning.
Right.
I don't want to work in the corporate world. I don't want them to change, me. And they said, and my friend said, "No, wait a minute. It's not you being changed. It's you going in and helping change the corporate world." And I went,
"Oh my gosh!"
I know, right? I got schooled. And people right now are very hungry for something. The thing I'm being asked for now is authentic connection. I'm being asked to help people to communicate at authentic levels. I mean, who knew that? I mean, now we know because we've got these little, gadgets that, separate us so much as well. Yeah. But people are asking for this, and I'm being pulled in more and more to that corporate world. So I will say it's about 20%. I do have, thanks to some people like Carrie, Carrie is somebody who has experienced this work. She knows this work. And so she's very good about saying to people, hey, if this is something you want to experience, go work with Mark. Not even out of the blue. One of my clients does these workshops every year. And boy, did she surprise me. She goes, we do these workshops out in Joshua Tree. People come in from all around the United States, 20, 25 people. She goes, would you come in and do a 3-day workshop with us and do your work with people? So in my head, I thought, great, I'm going to go and do this work with 20, 25 people over a 3-day week and 3-day weekend. And, I said to her when I first saw the retreat house, I said, okay, so what room will we be doing this in? She goes, no. She goes, you're going to do it in front of everybody individually. And I went, okay. And I went, all right. Wow. It was amazing though. It was amazing because one, it challenged me, something I had never done before I'd done one person for a group, but never one after the next. Yeah. And so the energy in that place was like, it was like the roof was blown off. And these individuals were just so amazing. The things that were coming up and my energy, even, I was so surprised. I was able to go 10, 12 hours a day. And these people were staying with it. And it was just really magical. And somewhere during the first day, someone came up to me and they said, your energy is a lot like the person that was working with us last year. She was doing family constellation therapy. Do you know Carrie Gonya?
You're kidding. Oh, that's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
That is so funny.
Of all things. So I called Carrie. I'm like, okay, I just got the biggest compliment. They said my energy is like yours. So, I was like, that's great. That's great.
That's so funny.
Oh my God. That's great.
Kelly, I want to ask you, if you don't mind, I would love to ask you this question. So this is something that happens, and Shirley, you're a unique individual. I know you well now in that you really do have the belief that anything is possible, like I do, and I know like you do, Kelly. But one of the things that I run into is sometimes people say, hey, I want to do past life regression work with you, but I'm not sure if I believe in it. And one of the things I always have to say to people is, listen, I work with you within your belief system. So if your subconscious mind already has a block to doing past life work, you might want to work with me on something else first and then do some regression work. And I have some people say, and I had a woman who said to me, she goes, I'm very staunch in my religion and I believe there's one life, but I want to do a past life regression with you. And so I said, oh, okay. And I talked her through, I know, right? So, but she came in and she did it. And we had a really amazing session. Her experience was not so much of past life as it was other spiritual, other dimensional, I'll say, like a very direct connection with the deity or deities in which she believes. So she said, although I didn't experience a past life, she said, I experienced knowing that there is life after this life. And I said, okay, great. Maybe that's what you came for.
That was what she would have come here for. Yeah, absolutely.
And my question to you, Kelly, is do you ever have people come to you and say, I don't believe in anything beyond, what I can taste, touch, see, and smell, but I still want to come to you and do this work? Do you ever have that happen?
I have it with a lot of men.
Yeah.
And it cracks me up because I'm like, okay, where do I start? I'll start with this. Your mother, who passed away, is right over here. Her favorite color is purple. She's telling me, oh my God, you were such a handful. Then in fact, I'll even give you an example. I did a reading for somebody in Australia. I think it was last week or the week before, and he had no ability to connect with his head and his heart. And I said, I said, why are we even doing this? And he said, well, my girlfriend wanted me to, and I said, well, you don't have to, because have you ever been in therapy? And then he goes, well, my therapist says that my head and my heart don't connect. I said, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden I said, look, I have a woman. I hear the name Aunt Linda. She passed away. She's telling me that you were always a funny kid this way. And then he started to cry. It went right into because his Aunt Linda apparently had been quite important to him. Now, I'm in LA. How could I possibly know who this guy is and his Aunt Linda? The only reason I bring that up is that was one way that that's usually how I get in.
Yeah.
Most people don't come to see me if they're real rigid. I mean, it's no fun for me, and it's actually awful for me. And then I go knock on Shirley's door and I say, God damn it, Shirley, what a difficult session. Is that what I say, Cheryl? Yeah. But
completely.
Yeah, but it's not as much now. But men, for some reason, seem to be a little more rigid in their beliefs. And often what I do too is the first thing I start off with is talking about who they are as a soul, and I can hit it pretty quickly right on. And then they don't know how I pulled that rabbit out of my hat. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing.
I wonder if that has to do, I mean, there are lots of different reasons we could look at mentally, but I sometimes wonder if it's because men, we don't have the ability to create and bring life forth. So women actually, I think, do you know what I mean? Like you have the experience of knowing that it's something that is beyond just what you can taste, touch, see, hear, smell. Women, I do believe I just had this conversation this week. This is a moment where I think that the feminine energy is not only so strong, but so necessary, because we have to have a new perspective and a new way of being. That's not women trying to be like men, but women being so powerfully as women. And I do think it has something to do with that ability. Only women can bring forth life, can feel life created within them. Men have not that experience. Therefore, there is a slight disconnect to what it goes beyond just the senses.
I never thought about that, but that you may have just explained.
That is so interesting.
Why I feel that many have been limited. Until they've had some sort of, spiritual experience, then they tend to really open up, and then they can't stop talking about it, and then sometimes they go into total denial about it. It's so interesting. Life here is so fascinating, and there are so many different ways for healing, and the work that you do is so important. And I wanted to mention, back in the day, I was huge in corporate life. And, what I do now would have never worked in corporate life, ever. Not that ever. So I love the fact that you're working with corporations and doing the work that you're doing, because those are the systems that I talked about earlier with Saturn and Pluto going retrograde. Those systems are going to break down. They're going to need you actually in those systems to help facilitate change. And I absolutely believe that everything is possible.
Yes.
It's on my website. I mean, I really believe it.
I believe it as well. And it's so interesting because one of the things, Shirley, again, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I'm being called to teach now, and I've been feeling it for quite a while. And I'd spoken with really a wonderful reading with an astrologer who I didn't say a word. And he said, Mark, what's coming up for you right now is teaching. I said, for 6 months, I've been feeling this call. And I had a former client come to me and say, hey, I'm back in school where you went to school, and I want to be doing what you're doing. And she said, I want to focus on spiritual hypnosis, and I would like for you to become my mentor or my teacher. And I said, when you're ready, I said, I'm here. She's now doing individual work with me, and we are working on her doing this work. And it led me to take a look at these online courses, and I am creating this online course, and I'm really excited about it because I realize I've got a lot to share. And one of the things that it's interesting. I'm at this moment in my life where I want to say to anybody who's willing to take a course from me or any information, it doesn't belong to me. Take it. Like, it's yours. Like, take it, spread it. It's good stuff. Like, we can do good stuff to help to change people's perspectives that anything is possible. The only thing that's keeping us in, let me correct it. Let me say it this way. So this is for our left brainers and our right brainers out there. And I love our left brainers and right brainers because it makes us have to like really do our work, right?
So true, so true, so true.
Yeah.
So for our left brainers and our right brainers, I always say the external events that are happening in your life. If you stubbed your toe, you stubbed your toe. If you were born in March, you were born in March. If you were, if you got your heart broken at the age of 15, you got your heart broken at the age of 15. You can't change the external experiences that happen, but you can change your mind about that experience. And in changing your mind, that experience changes for you. Your story changes, and your experience of that thing is what changes. Because people say to me, oh, I don't want, you're one of these people that's going to say, I can magically create whatever I want. And I say, well, let's talk about it. And I've had people say to me, I'm going to talk with you about disease. And I go, okay, so tell me your story about disease. And then I start saying to them, tell me the blessings in that disease. There's no blessings. Okay, we'll tell. And as we keep talking, they realize there is a way to shift perspectives and find some blessings of forgiveness, blessings of love, blessings of care, blessings of getting the heart broken because the love was that deep. Right.
Or even, as you're talking, Mark, blessings of learning how to receive support and love from people and being taken care of when we haven't. And all of a sudden we get sick and we're forced to ask for help.
Yes.
And then we take it in.
And the deepest lesson here really is what you're providing is an opportunity for the soul to get free.
Yeah.
And that's the deepest part of the lesson, because it allows the soul then to do what the soul came to do, as opposed to roadblocks.
Yes. Yes.
So it's really great that you're doing this. And Sasha says we really need to integrate therapists into corporate structures.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mental and spiritual health is so important to one's well-being, but it's often neglected. Oh, it's so true.
Absolutely right.
Really, it sounds like the work that you're going to do that you do in the corporate world will really open that up. Good for you.
And if anybody has any questions, you can call in at 701-801-9603. Take advantage of our wonderful guest and call in. Yeah, John will let us know if there's a call.
Now, the work that you do, Mark, do you do that do you do it on Skype, or do they have to come and see you?
Okay, so this is a great question. Over 80% of my work is done through Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, GoToMeeting, BC, every one of those digital, like Believe, like what we're working on right now. I'm working with people in the Netherlands, in the UK, in Australia, in Florida, in New York. I had one client for a while that was in, she's moved since then, but she was in, I can't remember. She was in the Middle East. She was an American, but she was working there.
Wow.
So they when they find me, we can work and we can do hypnosis in this way. If they're here in Los Angeles, they work with me in my office in Pasadena, but I have corporate clients that work for some of the social media companies, that work for medical companies, and we meet at times that are convenient for both of us. So sometimes that means early in the morning, sometimes that means late at night, but I have found that I can work now from anywhere in the world because I'm working with people all over the world. So it's been it's been a really freeing thing. And that's because, technology has advanced so much in the past 20 years. So
I agree with you. That's how I do my work too. And I think it's spectacular that you can do this. So anybody that's out there watching this, they can actually have this experience with Mark through any of these avenues, which is great. And Shirley, you do a lot of your work through Zoom or Skype.
Some of it, yeah. When people, I have a lot of people that travel at times and stuff, and even the somatic experiencing we can do. Certainly not the touch, but the getting in touch with your body and taking things slowly and giving emotions time to process. We have from Susie, and therapy has become too expensive for everyday people. I stopped for that reason. It can be, and unfortunately, I've always had, and let me ask you guys how you feel. I think Kelly and you've talked about, it's always been so difficult for this to be my profession that I have to charge money for. And then when someone can't continue to pay, I don't have the heart to say, okay, well then I can't see you anymore. I mean, it's just so difficult because you're doing something that's so, it feels to me so sacred. You know, you're not just performing, you know, like a tangible or like haircutting and stuff, which everything is important, you know, but that's always been something very difficult for me to kind of, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. Wrap your head around it. I get
my
it.
head around it.
I understand totally. Yeah.
One of the things that I've done, because I do work with some nonprofits, and one of the things that I set for myself is that I 15% of the people that I work with, just like the nonprofits, I will work with at a reduced rate. Once I've met that, then it's my time, and I'm valuing my time for what my rate is. But if someone says to me, I can't afford to see you, but I really want to see you, I say, you know what, we're going to make this possible. So either I can refer you to someone else who does this work, who's a little newer at it, not as well established, or as soon as I have availability to work with someone at a reduced rate, give me all your information, and I will absolutely fit you in. Because I do believe there's a great give back, and I say, what is it that you can do this for that's affordable? Obviously, if I'm doing a lot of work with the businesses, you can't like put the business on hold and just, you know, because, you know, then you're doing volunteer work. I love to give my time, my energy, and as long as there's that law of right exchange, as the Native Americans, you know, would talk about. And as long as everything is being taken care of on that one end, I don't have a problem either saying that 15% of my work will be at a reduced rate so that people can afford to do the work.
Right. I have a question for you, Mark. Tell me about Dolores Cannon. Did you ever do any of her work?
I have not. I have not done Dolores Cannon. You know, I will tell you my very first introduction to this work was Brian Weiss. And you know,
I love him.
Yeah, me too. And now there are a lot more people that are out there, but I am not familiar with Dolores's work. So I would be, yeah.
She does also Life Between Lives, and she did a lot of that stuff too. She's passed on, but your work reminds me of her. It's a compliment. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, she's wonderful work.
Well, anybody that you like in this work, I take it as a compliment. And I want to say, like, you know, and Shirley, I hope you can attest to this, or not. You can bitch slap me. When people come to me, they're not going to get someone who is sitting above them and you know, creating. No, you get a friend that's sitting there with you, and you get a sense that I'm really going to listen, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I partner with people. Years ago, I got it that there's more in this existence, this universe, than I'm ever going to have all the answers to. And so I took the pressure off myself and said, you know what, I don't have the answers, but I can certainly facilitate and ask enough questions and look for changes in body language. That's my other specialty, looking for the changes in body language so that when we're doing the work together, whether it's the coaching aspect or the hypnosis aspect of it, I can ask enough things that you will then fill up the space. And if I listen closely enough with enough attention, and I allow myself to be nudged by inspiration, we will get truly to the heart of it. Because Shirley, you and I both know the head can get in the way, but the heart leads you the right way. And
absolutely.
You know,
I can absolutely attest to it. I mean, first of all, anybody that Carrie refers to me, I immediately love just because she loves them. But when I met you, I just felt so immediately comfortable, because I will always, you know, as you know, Kelly, and sometimes it's gotten me in trouble, I will always try everything once, almost everything, you know. And so Carrie said, I've got this great guy, Mark, go see him. And so I went to see you, and I just felt immediately very, very comfortable with you. And that's why, you know, we've stayed in touch, and we've, you know, and I wanted you to meet Kelly and be on the show, because it's just so valuable what you do. And you do feel like you're kind of joining in my journey. You're not, you know, above me trying to tell me how to do it or what to do, because I've been through it before, kind of thing. You're really kind of just, you're there with
I was going to say, Cheryl, it's a great addition to, actually.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd love to know about what you talked about, body, when you started.
Body language.
Language.
So this is interesting, Kelly. From the time I was little, I always, when people in school, strangers, my father worked sales. He had a fruit stand, fruits and vegetables, like a little store. And I was working with my father from the time I was little, and he could read people, and I could read people very, very well. And I just thought, well, I guess I'm just good with people, but I could like read them. And I went, is this something that is, is this a medium thing? What,
Right.
like what's, because I didn't know what it was. I couldn't define it. So when I was I did many different things in my 20s, did some improv classes where you're doing listening and response, and you have to call out what things are. And I started doing some awareness workshops where there was a really amazing exercise. Any of our listeners that want to do this, I strongly suggest. For 2 minutes, you would stand up in front of the group and you would call out all the different things that you were doing with your face and your hands and your body, not meaning to do anything, but I would literally say, I just raised my eyebrows. And when I did that, I just felt my right eyebrow, and I just saw Shirley's eyebrows go up, and it made my eyebrows go up again. And now she smiled, now I've smiled. And you just go through and you call it out in conscious awareness of everything that's going on with your body and your face. And the instructor said, you're really, really good at this. Fast forward to several years later, when I was back in school, one of the teachers said to me, you are really good at reading body language. And they said to me, was one or both of your parents either an alcoholic or a drug addict? And I said, yeah, my father was a pretty severe alcoholic. And they said, usually if you're like a protector in the family, I was the oldest male, you're looking for, when that person comes to the door, what are we getting? Like, what is it dangerous? How do I protect the other people in the room? Is there, what's happening, to assess it? And my father would have different levels of drunkenness. So it was either the fun state or the angry state or the fall down state. So he could even be hurting himself. So I was always reading what was going on when he would come through the room. And it just turned out that I was able to use this. I had a dear friend say to me, Mark, you're the kind of person who, when someone walks in within 2 minutes, you're really accurate about knowing the kind of person they are. Once I started using body language and breaking it down, eye movement, body movement, congruency, incongruence, because the body is always telling you the truth, even if the words are not. So body language is theorized to be more than 54% of how we're communicating. The words are only 7%, meaning that someone's words are coming through. And one of the reasons why text is not an accurate barometer for what someone is feeling. Well, I just felt like they were this in the text. I said, it's only words. You're not hearing the tone, the rhythm, the volume of the voice, and you're not seeing the body language. Yeah. So for me, learning to actually categorize it and read the body language, that helped so much working with my clients that were coming in and watching how their body language would change. There were couples that started coming to me, I wasn't doing couples therapy, but I said, I can facilitate communication between you. That's all I'm going to do. Facilitate communication. Yeah. That you're going to talk. we're not going to do, there's no, you have to go to a therapist for therapy, but you can come to me and I'll facilitate the conversation. We're just disagreeing and we're not, agreeing. And usually these were clients that I'd already worked with. They'd come sit on the couch facing like away from each other, a leg crossed away from each other. And as we're going through the session, we'd hit on certain subjects. I would watch if they got farther apart or closer together. As they'd get closer together, I'd say, tell me more about that. And they would get closer together, closer together, closer together. And we would make certain agreements till by the end, they were sitting right next to each other and smiling just alike and feeling good. So I use body language to bridge the gaps of communication that exist between people. Wow. So that's, and I do that in the corporate world. The corporate world loves that. To sit in a room and go around a table with these incredibly smart people, usually more up here than down than here, you know, and go around the room and say, okay, so Shirley is this type of a person, Kelly's this type of a person, Carrie's this type of a person. And they're like, wow, that's exactly right. And then to say, if you need to work with this person on a project or get information from them or partner with them in any way, this is the way for you to do it in a way that's a win-win situation. And they go, wow, we've been waiting for this. It doesn't feel like magic to me. It feels like common sense, but that's because that's my world. So
wow. Oh, that's so interesting. Wow. So important. And then Angela Joy says, do you find people that can't be hypnotized? What a great question. Hi, Angela. I always thought I would never be able to relax enough to do it. I always thought that too.
Yeah.
So here is the thing. Theoretically, everyone can be hypnotized to a certain level. We have one of 3 levels that we look for in terms of clinical hypnotherapy. Hypnoidal, which is the very light state. It's like when you're just starting to fall asleep and there's just that little fluttering behind the eyes. So everyone goes into this state on a natural, on a daily basis. Sometimes when we're looking out the window and somebody's says, Shirley, Shirley, and you're like, what? You just were in a daydream. That's a hypnoidal state. That's when children are in a state of what's called environmental hypnosis up until about the age of 10. That's why they are so influenced by the world. That's why we condition those children before the age of 10, because whatever the child believed before the age of 10, good, bad, or otherwise, stays with that child. That becomes then that child's truth moving into adulthood. Here's what we find is that the second level, let me just go through this. The second level is cataleptic. That's when the eyes are moving very slowly back and forth. That's when we're in a dream state. Now, the third state is somnambulistic. That's when our eyes roll back in our head. 1 in 4 people are natural somnambulists. They tend to be highly physical. Like I'm a somnambulist. They tend to be highly physical. They're people who are good at influencing the environment around them and are influenced by the environment around them. So it's got, two sides of the same coin. It's got its upside and its downside. So 25% are somnambulists. We also take a look at, are they high physical like I am, or are they more of a thinker? Are they the person that's really up in their head and thinking? And it is true. Someone who is a thinker, who is wondering about, am I doing this right? What is he going to do once I'm under? What if I don't do it right? Am I really seeing this? Am I really experiencing this? And they're asking questions all of the time rather than going with the flow. They can impede the process. The good news is that they can be conditioned to go deeper and deeper every time if they're willing to do that work. When I work with a somnambulist, it's easy. They go under really fast, really quickly. Those are the people that can do hypnobirthing. Those are the people that can do hypnosurgery. They don't need anesthesia. They can go into such a deep state. But our thinkers tend to be our people who either the thoughts are so fast and so erratic that they do not allow the mind to go on the journey. So the body never relaxes, the mind never relaxes, and the deepest they get is that very light hypnoidal state where they say, well, I feel a little bit better, and I kind of saw this, and I kind of felt this. But I talk with people about that beforehand. I say, Angela just said, yes, I feel like that's me. So if you're a thinker, but with those people, I spend a little longer time in what's called a first induction. And surely I spent longer, yeah. So in a first,
that's hilarious.
In a first induction, the person, I may need to spend 20, 25 minutes with them, getting them to a state of relaxation. A somnambulist can be under in 5 minutes. And a somnambulist keeps going under over and over again. If it's someone that's working with me on a consistent basis and they are more of a thinker, I ask them to work with the recordings that I make at least twice a day, so that when they then come back to me 2 or 3 weeks later, they have gotten so accustomed to my voice, the advertising and the sound of my voice, and their subconscious mind is up, because that's what it is. It's the subconscious mind going, yeah, subconscious mind wants to keep you in what you know. And if your subconscious mind if you're a thinker, subconscious mind is going, I don't know if I trust this guy. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if this work is for real. I trust Shirley, but she told me about this, but hypnosis, I don't know about this. Am I going to be late? Wait a minute. I don't feel this in my toes. And they're thinking all the way through it. The mind never stops, Angela says. And when the mind never stops, it gets in the way. So it just takes longer. So the long answer, you just heard it. The short answer is yes, everyone can be hypnotized, but the long answer is that depending on your level of thinking or your level of being someone who goes with the flow will depend on how deeply you go in a first session.
Yeah.
And
Sasha, you're right. I mean, it is if people think that somehow you're not aware or conscious when you're hypnotized, and that's just not true. It's just a very deep level of
That's right.
But, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's like a very deep level of meditation where you have allowed your subconscious mind to quiet, and you've allowed your higher consciousness to be able then to inform what your conscious mind doesn't know and what your subconscious mind doesn't want you to know. It's about inviting the hyperconscious in through this very, very deep state of meditation, this very hyper state of awareness, because people say, oh, I'm going to forget everything. No, you're actually hyper aware. Time is a little bit funny. There are people will be under for an hour and they'll say, yeah, I felt like I was under for 15, 20 minutes. And I go look at the clock. Or they'll say, wow, I felt like we were there for 2 hours. And I go, nope, it was 40 minutes. And, time slips. Time certainly slips, but it is like a deep state of meditation. And the more, if you have a meditation practice or a yoga practice, any type of deep breathing practice, that tends to help. Even if you're a thinker, it allows you to go into that more relaxed state, both mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, my gosh, thank you. Lynn has been sending beautiful notes of I love this man and this man's fantastic, and I couldn't agree more. And now I'm sure, Kelly, you're feeling
I can't wait to have
the
a
same way.
session. I'm like, sign me up now. I can't wait.
Good.
God.
So our time is up. I mean, the hour passed so quickly, but thank you so much, Mark, for being with us. I mean, it was just so valuable to have you and to
really,
just
Mark,
look
thank
at
you
it from
so much.
Different perspective.
And John, make sure you thank you, John, back there.
Yeah, thank you. John's been backstage.
Put up his book, okay, John? I mean, I know you did that, but on our site, I love that. You are who are you choosing to be? I love that. Who are you choosing
to be? And I will give one quick disclaimer. It's not a book on hypnosis or body language. It's a book on making conscious choices and deliberate action. The very thing that I said to you before, we may not change the fact that I was born in March in the South, as you can hear, but I can change my perspective about it. And this book is a simple coaching tool that helps people to do that, to reframe.
Yeah. Wow. Lynn says he hypnotizes. Lynn, we love you.
Lynn, I love you. And Shirley, I want to say thank you. I know you and I've spent time together. Kelly, I am now loving being with you as well.
It's gonna be fun.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Your angelic light. Kelly's an angel. Thank you so much. And thank all of you out there for tuning in and listening. And we will see you next week.
All right.
Take care, everybody. Good night. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. Oh, well.